only genes made of DNA, but an intricate structure of cellular machinery. It's a very interesting thing that comes together there because you need the proteins in order to produce the DNA. You need the DNA in order to produce proteins. So everything is kind of weird, okay? But the point is it all had to be there at the same time. If you need this to make that, and you need that to make this, the only way that can work is if they're all there at the same time in the beginning. They can't come dropping along one at a time over time. And our children keep hearing this same stinking lie. Every year we send them off to higher institutions of education and they teach them the same lies over and over and over again. And our young children are walking away from this faith in droves. Walking away in droves. Everywhere I go, I see young people raised in this walk, and then they send them off to universities, and they come out the other end rejecting everything we taught them on the other side. Because they've been bombarded. They get bombarded with it. And if we're not teaching them how to defend themselves, then they're going to cave into it. Okay? And so, like I said, I don't know about you guys, but if the Messiah tarries, I think it's quite possible that this walk of ours, we could lose it in one single generation. It could go away in one single generation if we don't start focusing on these younger people. That's why Psalm 73, I believe, says what it does. Maybe it's 79. It could be more than 20 chapters off. But we're supposed to teach our children and their children's children and their children's children's children so they can know that God is God. That's a summation. There's about 10 passages there, but the summation is that we're supposed to pass these things in to the next generation so that they can be confident of who God is. Anyway, and when it said in Abraham, Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, all the families of the earth were blessed, he was talking about the word of Elohim in Abraham. Not the physical seed of Abraham. Now, if you're of the physical seed of Abraham and you believe, then you are part of that fellowship, that communion, that covenant with us. But if you're from the physical lines of Abraham and you don't believe, your branches are cut off, Paul said. That means they're not producing the fruit of the natural tree. So when he said, in Abraham all the nations of the earth would be blessed, he's talking about the word of Elohim in Abraham, which eventually produced naturally for him to keep the commandments of our God. Once again, that never changes. So our Messiah is our first fruits. So the first one, the reason why we can do anything is because the Bible very clearly says that he did it before us. He went the way before us. How many times does the Torah tell us? Go into the land, do this. Why? Because Yahweh went in the land before you. That's why you can do it. You can do it because he did it. And Yeshua said greater things than you. Well, Father always does the first work. I want to give you a few examples. Elohim created man in his image, and then he told him to tend the garden. First makes the first man perfect in his image. All right? That's by his grace. He didn't have to do that. I'm sure he has lots of other things to do. Reading, okay? So then he tells him to go tend the garden. I'm going to suggest to you, if he hadn't made him perfect in the first place, he wouldn't be able to tend the garden. Wouldn't be able to do it. Noah finds grace in the eyes of God, then he goes and builds an ark. I'm trying to tell you, this pattern never changes, and our Christian friends need to know that Paul maintains this same pattern. Paul did not say, follow me, in 1 Corinthians 11:1. He said, follow me as I am of the Messiah. He didn't say, follow him. He said, well, in the Old Testament, we're following the Father. Then in the Gospels, we're following Yeshua. And in the book of Acts, we're following the Holy Spirit. Now we're following Paul. No, he said, follow me as I am of the Messiah and the ordinances that were handed down to you. So Yeshua says, I do all things the Father told me to do. I say all things the Father told me to do. And then Yeshua said, take up your cross and follow me. You know, like a duh thing. What's so hard about that? Take up your tree and follow me. What does that mean? Do what I do. Did Yeshua keep the biblical Sabbath? Did Yeshua keep the feast? Abel. Remember the story of Cain and Abel? Can we finish with that? Is that okay? Did I do this yesterday? Maybe before? I don't know if I can trust you. Now, how many of you would agree with me? We're going to start with Genesis chapter 4, verse 1. How many would agree with me that before we got to Genesis chapter 4, verse 1, there was Genesis chapter 1, 2, and 3? We're on good terms already. So we're good. So Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. I was at this school camp yesterday because they were all black Hebrew Israelites. There's a camp north of here, I think. They were all Hebrew Israelites, and they had never heard virtually anything that I had said before this. And they're just kind of fun to be around. Okay, do I agree with everything that they believe? No. But by the end of it, that's the thing. I have people say, why are you going to camp? Because, they believe this and they believe that and so forth. And I get insulted by when I hear it. Because I'm thinking, are you thinking that only they can influence me? I can't have any influence over them? I'm just a mercy, okay? And everybody else that perhaps maybe I can say something to make a difference in their lives. Pardon me? That's right. In his name I do all things. That's exactly right. And so by the end, everybody kind of agreed. Yeah, we're all in this walk. We're all in the kingdom because of our hearts, because of our faith. And it doesn't have anything to do with our skin color. It doesn't have anything to do with any of these other things. It's all because we believe in the same God of everything else. Pardon me? Yeah, it's spiritual, not physical. Okay, so the only reason I brought this is because when I got up to this part, and I said what I was about to say, they just hooted and hollered for like 10 minutes. Calm down. Okay. It was a good hooting and hollering, okay? I said that was the first prophecy of who the Messiah was going to be. And that comes from Jewish sources, not Gentile ones. Because as some of you well know, in Hebrew it says that I have gotten a man, Yahweh. And in your English, it says, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. But it doesn't say that in Hebrew. It just says, I have gotten a man, Yahweh. That's just the first prophecy right there. So either way, moving on. And she again bore his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. Now, if you read Genesis chapter 1, 2, and 3, then you know what the problem is right there. Right? Cain is tilling something that God has already cursed. The ground was cursed because of what happened in the garden. Right? Now, some of you probably heard me do this before with others, okay? So just bear with them. But that was the problem right there. But it fits in something else that I want to do here. And in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground a mincha unto Yahweh. Mincha is translated as offering in your Bibles there. So Cain brings a bloodless offering. That's what a mincha is. It's not involving the blood. It's a bloodless offering from the ground. That's your first problem. He brings something cursed to God. Are we okay with that? Okay? I hope so, because this is what it says. And Abel, here's the key. It said, I read this all my life, and when I first heard this, just a little phrase or builder, which I just took in 50 different other directions, my mouth dropped, and I go, how in the world could I not see that as a regular pastor dude? Because I was trained, Cain brought the cursed thing, and Abel brought the blood of a lamb, and so therefore that's the paradigm of what everything else is going to be. God never cared about your works. He never cared about you doing things. He's always cared about that. And that's the way I've always thought it. But he lets us know that Cain brought something that was cursed to the ground. Then he says, and Abel also brought of the firstlings of his flock and the fat thereof, which means something had to die in order to bring the fat thereof. The blood was shed. And so Yahweh had respect unto Abel and to his mincha. Very clear what it says. Abel brought a bloodless offering that was cursed, and Abel brought a bloodless offering that was cursed. Why did he have respect unto Abel? Because he also, and he lists it first, brought of the blood. And so the blood removed the curse. That paradigm will never change. The blood removes the curse. That hasn't changed now. The same is true now. Now, if the blood is not involved in what you're doing, then we are all bringing cursed offerings unto our Father. It's the blood that removes the curse. And of course, that's challenged by anti-missionaries today, as some of you know. Some will say, blood hasn't got anything to do with atonement and redemption. They go back to where they have to get that from? They only go back to the temple. They only go back to the tabernacle. People avoid the beginning like the plague. Everyone wants to stay away from the beginning. The enemy convinced most of us in the last 2 centuries of staying away from the beginning, because the enemy knows also that the end is revealed where? In the beginning. And so he knew if he can keep us away from the beginning, we would have no clue what's going on at the end. And the best way to do that is convince a mass of people that the beginning was done away with on a cross 2,000 years ago. We're a New Testament church now. We don't need that stuff in the beginning. And so therefore we get 50 different versions of end-time prophecies because we're trying to understand the end either from the end or from the middle. And the Father knew we would go to the middle to understand the end. That's why in the book of Isaiah, pretty much in the middle, he said the end is revealed where? In the beginning. Yeah, he knew that we would start people out in the book of John when we got them saved, right? 2/3 of the way through. So how did he start out John 1:1? In the beginning was the Word. A little hint from Papa there, okay? You know, maybe I ought to go back to the beginning. Because I already know that you're going to send everybody to the Gospel of John. Sticks them right into a sode, right? But I understand. Sticks them right into a sode. And so the idea, of course, is established right there. First, the blood. Before they went to Mount Sinai to get the instructions on how to survive the wilderness, which is what Mount Sinai was all about. Our Father already told Moses. Remember Charlton Heston, you know, in the same days? He already told Charlton. He already told Moses that you're going to go to this stuff before you get to the Promised Land. He already told them in Exodus chapter 3, verses 12, 13, 14, verses 9, 10, all that. So he already knew that he wasn't going right to the Promised Land. He already knew that he was going to go to Mount Sinai first. But first was the blood, right? First was the Passover lamb. Israel was not delivered from Egypt by the Torah. Israel was delivered from Egypt by the blood of the lamb. Then they were taken to the Torah. It never changes. I can't overstate it. It never, ever changes. It's always His grace. Always His first work. Now He has something to work with. For by grace are you saved through faith, that not of yourselves. It is a gift of God, and not of good works, lest any man should boast. That's something He does. You can't do it without Him. Then the next verse says, now you are my workmanship, created in the Messiah, and two good works that God had before ordained from the beginning. So this pattern never ever changes. First the grace. And see, our Christian friends can't understand that. They think one's been replaced by the other. And that's the reason why life goes right out the window, right there. Because the only way life works in every living thing is everything works symbiotically, everything works with everything else, and one thing comes forth from the other. If you do one before the other, then you're going to be cursed. If you're trying to produce fruit, you got no seed, you're cursed. If you're trying to produce a seed, you got no fruit, you're cursed. First the seed, then the fruit. And these young people are learning that out in the field. I know that's what they're learning. They're seeing live right in front of them with their hands how the words of their Bibles work. These GIT people are. Because they're out there actually doing. Remember, I promise I will close with this. I think I mentioned here at Unleavened Bread about one of the reasons why I believe there's chaos, particularly in our Western countries, is because we don't take seeds, plant them in the ground, nurture them, harvest them, eat the fruit, and then take the seed and put it back in the ground. Amen. We don't do that anymore. So you guys are doing that. For the most part, we don't. In 1920, there was 100 million people in the United States. 37 million were farmers. Over 1 out of 3 people was a farmer less than 200 or 100 years ago. And they brought in 21% of our national revenue. Right? Farmers, 21% of our national revenue. Brought in by farmers. Here we are less than 100 years later. We got over 340 million people now. But now we have less than 2 million farmers. And they produce less than 1% of our national revenue. And of those small group of farmers that we do have, many of them have humongous farms. Thousands of acres of GMO, grains and pesticides spraying all over them. And the rest of them are paid by the government not to grow anything at all. And we wonder why prophecy is all over the map. Everything Yeshua tells about the end times is in the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the wheat and tares and the sowing and reaping and vineyard owners. These guys are getting back to it. I really would admonish you, if you have anybody getting close to the age, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow night as well. Anybody, any young man or any young woman that's getting to that age, take the time. You know, back in the 60s, when you had a problem, what we did was we sent our young people that age over to the Peace Corps or something like that. So working for the secular government wasn't a problem, sending our young minds to, but sending them out in a field to work together with other brothers and sisters with like mind to learn how to restore growing our own food in our country is just something we just can't afford to do. Okay? And it's very sad because I believe that the Father is going to ignite the spark. I think He's already done it. He's going to start raising up a little fire in this little thing that Brian here is doing in this country. And I would admonish you to support as much as you can what's going on here. Because it's something straight from the heart of God. Father, I thank you and I praise you for your presence tonight as we enter into your Shabbat. Now may we enjoy ourselves in you, because you told us all the things that we're doing here in this camp. You told us that that's what we're to take, a portion of our livelihood, our tithes, and bring them in order to celebrate this precious festival. Help us to understand the relationship between offerings and rejoicing as well. And we thank you for this precious time. Keep us all safe tonight. Don't have any little kids falling in fires and running around each other in the dark, and keep the adults from falling in the fires too. And we promise to give you the praise. And all the God's people said, Amen. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you all so much.